The Galactic Council chamber hummed with tension as the holographic representatives of a dozen species flickered into view. High Counselor Zuwayandar, a towering reptilian with scales that shimmered like molten gold, called the meeting to order. We gather today to discuss the inclusion of humanity in the Centennial Cultural Exchange, he announced, his voice a low rumble that echoed through the chamber. Murmurs of unease rippled through the assembly. Humans are unpredictable, argued Counselor Vela, her translucent wings fluttering with agitation. At the last Interspecies Trade Summit, they turned a formal negotiation into what did they call it? A dance-off. And their use of memes to address the Zorlak conflict was highly unorthodox. Unorthodox, but effective, countered Counselor Raxnor, a burly insectoid with a deep, resonant voice. The Zorlak withdrew their forces after humans flooded their communication networks with images of cats wearing hats. They called it psychological warfare. Ziwayanar raised a clawed hand to silence the debate. Regardless of their methods, humanity has earned a place in the exchange. The question is not whether to invite them, but how to mitigate the chaos they inevitably bring. The Council reluctantly agreed, drafting a list of strict guidelines for humanity's participation. No weapons, no unapproved technology, and absolutely no memes, Ziwayanar declared. We cannot afford another incident like the Great Karaoke debacle. On Earth, the United Nations received the invitation with a mix of excitement and trepidation. This is our chance to show the galaxy who we really are, said Ambassador Elena Reyes, the head of the human delegation. But we need to think outside the box. If they expect chaos, let's give them something they'll never forget. Her team proposed a festival of laughter, a celebration of humor, creativity, and connection. Laughter is universal, argued Dr. Raj Patel, a cultural anthropologist. It transcends language and species. If we can make them laugh, we can make them understand us. The proposal was sent to the Council, who reviewed it with a mixture of confusion and dread. A festival of laughter? Ziwayanar repeated, his scales darkening with concern. What is this stand-up comedy they speak of? And why do they insist on a prank zone? Despite their reservations, the Council approved the proposal, assigning Overseer Clara, a stern, humorless bureaucrat, to monitor humanity's activities. If they so much as mention a meme, Ziwayanar warned, shut it down immediately. The human delegation arrived at the Galactic Exchange venue, a sprawling space station orbiting a neutral planet. Clara greeted them with a cold, formal nod. Your exhibits will be confined to Sector 7B, she said, her voice devoid of warmth. Any deviation from the approved schedule will result in immediate expulsion. The humans set to work, transforming their assigned sector into a vibrant carnival of laughter. A stage was erected for stand-up comedy, an open arena for improv performances, and a designated area for playful competitions. This is going to be amazing, said Marcus Lee, a comedian known for his deadpan delivery. I can't wait to see their faces when they hear my jokes about black holes. As the festival preparations neared completion, Clara watched from a distance, her expression unreadable. They seem harmless, she admitted to her assistant, a small, rodent-like creature named Tix. But appearances can be deceiving. We must remain vigilant. The day of the festival arrived, and the station buzzed with anticipation. Alien species from across the galaxy gathered in Sector 7B, their curiosity piqued by the strange human exhibits. Ziwayanar and the Council observed from a secure viewing platform, their unease palpable. Marcus Lee took the stage, his microphone crackling to life. So, I hear the Council was worried we'd cause chaos, he began, his tone dry. But let's be honest, compared to a species that communicates by releasing pheromones, we're practically boring. The audience stared in silence, unsure how to react. Then, a low chuckle emerged from the crowd, followed by another and another. Soon, the entire sector was filled with laughter, a sound so foreign yet infectious that even Clara found herself struggling to suppress a smile. The Council exchanged uneasy glances. This is not what we expected, Ziwayanar admitted. But perhaps, it is not entirely unwelcome. The stand-up comedy set ended with a roar of laughter, a sound so alien yet infectious that it rippled through the crowd like a wave. Marcus Lee stepped off the stage, grinning as he high-fived his fellow comedians. "Told you they'd get it," he said, his confidence unshaken. "Laughter's universal, even if it takes a minute to translate." The crowd, a mix of species from across the galaxy, began to mingle, their initial confusion giving way to curiosity. A group of insected aliens, their chitinous exoskeletons gleaming under the station's lights, approached the improv arena. "What is this, improv?" one of them asked, their voice a series of clicks and whistles. "It's like a game," explained Sarah Chin, an improv artist with a knack for thinking on her feet. "You give us a scenario, and we act it out on the spot. No scripts, no rules, just creativity." The insectids exchanged glances before one of them suggested, "A hive queen negotiating with a rogue drone." Sarah and her team launched into the scene, their exaggerated gestures and quick wit drawing laughter from the crowd. The insectids watched in awe, their antennae twitching with amusement. "This is delightful," one of them admitted. "We have never experienced such frivolity." Nearby, the prank zone was in full swing. Humans had set up a series of harmless tricks, from whoopee cushions to holographic projections that made it look like the floor was disappearing. A towering reptilian alien stepped on a whoopee cushion, the resulting noise causing them to leap back in alarm. The humans burst into laughter, and after a moment, the reptilian joined in, their deep, rumbling chuckles shaking the ground. Overseer Clara watched from the sidelines, her expression a mix of confusion and reluctant amusement. "This is not chaos," she muttered to herself. "This is something else entirely." The council, observing from their secure platform, was equally perplexed. "They are not causing destruction or disruption," Counselor Vela noted, her wings fluttering with unease. "They are entertaining. Is this their plan? To disarm us with humor?" Ziwayandar frowned, his golden scales shimmering under the station's lights. "Do not let your guard down. Humans are unpredictable. This could all be a ruse." Meanwhile, the playful competitions were drawing a crowd. A zero-gravity dance-off had begun, with humans and aliens alike floating through the air, their movements a mix of grace and absurdity. A jelly-like alien, their translucent body pulsing with color, performed a mesmerizing routine that left the audience in awe. A human contestant countered with a series of breakdancing moves, their limbs flailing in the weightless environment. The laughter grew louder, more unrestrained. Even the most stoic species found themselves smiling, their rigid postures softening as they embraced the joy of the moment. "This is extraordinary," said a tentacled alien, their voice a melodic hum. "We have never felt so connected." Clara approached Ambassador Elena Reyes, her usual stern demeanor slightly softened. "Your methods are unconventional," she admitted. "But I cannot deny their effectiveness. The festival is a success." Elena smiled, her eyes sparkling with pride. "Laughter has a way of bringing people together. It reminds us that, no matter how different we are, we all share the same emotions." As the day wore on, the festival's impact became undeniable. Alien species who had never interacted before were now laughing together, sharing stories, and even trading jokes. The council, however, remained wary. "This is all well and good," Ziwayandar said, his voice tinged with suspicion. "But what happens when the laughter stops? What then?" The answer came sooner than expected. A commotion erupted near the edge of the sector, where two long-feuding species, the Zorlak and the Krylul, had crossed paths. Tensions flared, their respective delegations squaring off with barely contained hostility. The council prepared to intervene, but Elena stepped forward. "Let us handle this," she said, her voice calm but firm. The humans quickly organized a comedic roast, inviting representatives from both species to participate. "You'll each take turns poking fun at the other," Marcus explained. "But remember, it's all in good humor. No hard feelings." The Zorlak and Krylul hesitated, their pride warring with curiosity. Finally, a Zorlak delegate stepped forward. The KRYL are so slow, they think a black hole is a vacation spot, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. The KRYL delegate countered. And the Zorlak are so aggressive, they'd start a fight with a black hole. The crowd erupted in laughter, the tension dissipating as both sides traded increasingly absurd insults. By the end, the Zorlak and KRYL were laughing together, their centuries-old feud momentarily forgotten. The council watched in stunned silence. They resolved a conflict that has plagued the galaxy for generations, Councillor Raxnor said, his voice filled with awe. With nothing but humor. Ziwayandar's scales darkened as he struggled to process what he had just witnessed. This changes everything, he admitted. Perhaps we have underestimated humanity. The comedic roast between the Zorlak and KRYL had ended in uproarious laughter, the two delegations now sharing jokes instead of insults. The crowd, a mix of species from across the galaxy, erupted into applause, their earlier tension replaced by a sense of camaraderie. Even Overseer Clara, who had been watching from the sidelines, allowed herself a small smile. This is remarkable, she admitted to Ambassador Elena Reyes. I have never seen anything like it. Elena nodded, her expression one of quiet pride. Laughter has a way of breaking down barriers. It reminds us that, deep down, we're not so different after all. The council, however, remained unconvinced. From their secure viewing platform, Ziwayandar and the other councillors observed the scene with a mixture of awe and suspicion. This cannot be real, Ziwayandar muttered, his golden scales flickering with unease. Humans cannot possibly have achieved in moments what we have failed to do in centuries. Councillor Vela, her translucent wings fluttering nervously, leaned in. Perhaps we have underestimated them. Their methods may be unorthodox, but the results speak for themselves. Before Ziwayandar could respond, a new crisis emerged. A group of delegates from the Vorath, a notoriously reclusive and territorial species, had arrived unannounced. Their massive, armored forms loomed over the crowd, their glowing eyes scanning the festival with open disdain. This is an outrage, their leader, a hulking figure named Grathkar, bellowed. Our sacred rituals have been mocked by these humans. The crowd fell silent, the earlier joy replaced by a palpable tension. The Vorath were known for their violent reactions to perceived slights, and their presence sent a ripple of fear through the festival. Clara stepped forward, her usual stern demeanor replaced by genuine concern. Ambassador Reyes, we must act quickly. If the Vorath are not appeased, this could escalate into a full-blown conflict. Elena exchanged a glance with Marcus and Sarah, her mind racing. We need to turn this around, she said. And fast. Marcus stepped forward, his microphone still in hand. Grathkar, was it? I hear you're upset about our portrayal of your rituals. But tell me this, have you ever considered that maybe, just maybe, your rituals are a little dramatic? The crowd gasped, their fear momentarily overshadowed by shock. Grathkar's glowing eyes narrowed, his massive fists clenching. You dare mock us? He growled, his voice like thunder. Not mock, Marcus corrected, his tone light but firm. Just pointing out the obvious. I mean, come on, sacred chanting, glowing crystals, the whole chosen one thing? It's like a bad holodrama. For a moment, the tension was unbearable. Then, to everyone's surprise, Grathkar let out a deep, rumbling laugh. You have nerve, human, he said, his voice tinged with reluctant admiration. Perhaps our rituals are a bit theatrical. The crowd erupted in laughter, the tension dissolving as quickly as it had appeared. The Vorath, their earlier hostility replaced by amusement, joined in the festivities, their massive forms now moving with an almost playful energy. This is unexpected, Grathkar admitted, his glowing eyes softening. But not unwelcome. The council watched in stunned silence, their earlier skepticism giving way to awe. They did it again, Councillor Raxnor said, his voice filled with disbelief. They turned a potential disaster into a moment of unity. Ziwayandar's scales darkened as he struggled to process what he had just witnessed. This changes everything, he admitted. If humans can resolve conflicts with nothing but humor, then perhaps we have been wrong about them all along. As the festival continued, the impact of humanity's approach became undeniable. Alien species who had never interacted before were now laughing together, sharing stories, and even trading jokes. The council, however, remained wary. "This is all well and good," Ziwayandar said, his voice tinged with suspicion. "But what happens when the laughter stops? What then?" The answer came sooner than expected. A sudden power surge rocked the station, the lights flickering before plunging the sector into darkness. Panic spread through the crowd, their earlier joy replaced by fear. "What's happening?" Clara demanded, her voice sharp with alarm. Elena activated a portable light, her expression calm but focused. "Stay calm, everyone," she said, her voice carrying through the darkness. "We'll figure this out." The humans quickly organized the crowd, using humor to keep spirits high. "Looks like the station's got stage fright," Marcus joked, eliciting nervous laughter. "Don't worry, folks, we've got this." Working together, the humans and aliens managed to restore power, the lights flickering back on to reveal a crowd united by their shared experience. The council, observing from their platform, was silent. "They did it again," Ziwayandar said, his voice filled with reluctant admiration. "Even in the face of chaos, they found a way to bring us together." The festival's final day arrived, the station buzzing with an energy unlike anything the Galactic Council had ever seen. Alien species who had once kept their distance now mingled freely, their laughter echoing through the halls. The humans, once viewed with suspicion, had become the heart of the event, their infectious humor bridging gaps that diplomacy had failed to close. The grand finale was a collaborative performance, featuring humans and aliens working together on a comedy skit. The stage was set, the audience packed with representatives from every corner of the galaxy. Marcus Lee stepped forward, his microphone crackling to life. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of indeterminate gender, welcome to the greatest show in the galaxy." The skit began, a chaotic yet heartfelt mix of humor and creativity. A Vorth warrior performed an exaggerated version of their sacred rituals, eliciting laughter from the crowd. A jelly-like alien floated through the air, their translucent body pulsing with color as they delivered deadpan one-liners. Even Overseer Clara made a brief appearance, her usually stern demeanor replaced by a rare smile as she delivered a perfectly timed punchline. The audience erupted in applause, their laughter a symphony of unity and joy. The council, observing from their secure platform, was silent, their earlier skepticism replaced by awe. "This is extraordinary," Counselor Vela admitted, her wings fluttering with emotion. "I never thought I would see the day when so many species could come together like this." Ziwayandar's scales shimmered as he struggled to process what he had just witnessed. "Perhaps we have been wrong about humanity," he said, his voice tinged with reluctant admiration. "Their chaos is not destruction, it is creation. It is connection." As the performance ended, Ambassador Elena Reyes stepped forward, her expression one of quiet pride. "Thank you all for being part of this incredible journey," she said, her voice carrying through the crowd. "Laughter is a universal language, one that reminds us of our shared humanity, or, in this case, our shared galaxy." The crowd erupted in applause, their cheers a testament to the festival's success. The council, moved by the display, issued a formal statement. "The Galactic Council acknowledges the profound impact of humanity's contribution to the Centennial Cultural Exchange," Ziwayandar announced, his voice filled with rare humility. "We apologize for our initial prejudice and declare that laughter shall henceforth be a central part of all future exchanges." The humans celebrated their victory, their joy tempered by a sense of accomplishment. "We did it," Marcus said, his grin wide. "We showed them what we're made of." Elena nodded, her eyes sparkling with pride. "This is just the beginning. The galaxy will never be the same." In the weeks that followed, the impact of the festival became undeniable. Alien species began incorporating humor into their cultures, their rigid traditions softened by the influence of laughter. The Vorth, once feared for their hostility, now hosted comedy nights on their homeworld. The Zorlak and Kerwailel, their ancient feud finally laid to rest, collaborated on a series of satirical holodramas. Even the council underwent a transformation. Overseer Clara, once a staunch critic of humanity, became an advocate for their methods. "Laughter is not chaos," she declared at a council meeting. "It is a force for unity, a tool for healing. We must embrace it." Ziwayanar, though still cautious, could not deny the evidence before him. "Perhaps humanity's greatest strength is their ability to find light in the darkest of places," he admitted. "We have much to learn from them." On Earth, the human delegation returned as heroes, their success celebrated across the planet. "We've changed the galaxy," Elena said, her voice filled with quiet pride. "And we did it by being ourselves." As the galaxy moved forward, united by the power of laughter, one thing became clear: humanity's chaos was not a flaw, it was a gift. And in a universe often divided by fear and mistrust, that gift was more valuable than anyone had ever imagined.